Hi guys, welcome back to Balls Fan TV, and today we're back with another video update on the match reaction to last night's 3-2 win against Shamrock Rovers at Mount Park. We survived the late scare to get our third successive victory, but I'm not looking too much into that really. I thought we were full value for the victory. I thought we were absolutely brilliant, really dominant, especially in the second half. The first half I thought the game was a bit scrappy. I think that's what we kind of expected. That's often the case in derbies. It always starts off a little bit scrappy. You know, Robbers were having a lot of the ball, but we were offering a little bit of a threat on the counter attack, and we did take the lead. It was a really nice move. Finished off by Parsons. He does well to find the space. It's a good ball in from Collie Whelan, and we were off and running. Then Robbers did continue to have a lot of the ball after that. They did create one good chance, I suppose, from Adam Brennan. Catches it nicely on the volley, and Casper has to make a save. But other than that, we weren't really bothered in the first half, despite the fact that we didn't have much of the ball, and we went in with a deserved lead. A few minutes into the second half, then we get a penalty. Dan Cleary, takes down Ross Tierney as he's getting in on goal. Collie Whelan then steps up and buries it. It's 2-0. And I thought from that point on, then we were playing some really nice football. The confidence that the players were showing after that was brilliant to see. There was a moment there where Rossi had the ball on the left, and I can't remember who he nutmegged somebody. I can't remember who it was. But it was just those nice little bits of play that we were seeing after the second goal. We were so dominant in the midfield and in the defence again. We weren't letting Rovers create anything. The five was running the game as usual. Patrick Hickey and Sam Todd just again absolutely rock solid at the back. And we just started playing with so much confidence after we got that second goal. And then obviously we had a third. Devoy finds Tierney in space and he buries it. It hits off the post and goes in. And that wrapped things up. But obviously then we had a little bit of a scare. Lopez pulls one back. The ball goes in from Jack Byrne. Casper comes out when he probably doesn't have to. And it did set it up for a nervy end, and obviously Aaron Gray then gets one a couple of minutes later, or there was still a minute left to play, and you start to get very worried then and think, oh God, here we go again. It's like Shelburne last season where we thought we were cruising to a victory, and then we end up letting it slip out of our hands. But luckily we saw it out in the last minute, and picked up another really really good victory. There's so many players that deserve a mention for man of the match. I think Hickey is right up there for me. I think the only thing that let him down was the fact that we couldn't manage to keep a clean sheet, but he was just dealing with everything. He was his strength, his aerial ability, just to deal with everything. He was absolutely brilliant. Rossi again, just every derby and Daily Mount, he's just always up for it. And yeah, he was absolutely excellent. Connor Parsons as well, I thought he had his best game in a Bowsher. Thought he was really good. He was working hard, got himself a goal. That'll hopefully boost his confidence now. Colin Whelan again, getting another goal, and some of his play was really really good. His hold-up play was fantastic. And I suppose the only stick that we can beat ourselves with is the fact that we couldn't keep a clean sheet. And I think in a weird way maybe it was a good thing. I'm not saying it was conceding is a good thing, because it's obviously not, but it would probably serve as a reminder to the players that if we are going to be serious title challengers this year, that we're not always going to have it easy. There's going to be moments where we're going to have to switch on, and those two goals at the end will be a reminder to the players that this is a tough league, and we're going to be coming up against teams every week that have their strengths. And you saw what Rovers were able to bring off the bench in that second half. They were able to bring on Jack Burns, Sapawale, Jake Mulroney. They've got plenty of quality in the squad, and the more that they emptied the bench, the more you felt that they'll start to create some chances. It was just very important though that we had that large cushion heading into added time, being 3-0 up. If we hadn't got that third goal from Rossi, it probably would have ended in a draw. But look, these things happen. We're not going to focus too much on that. All we want to talk about was how well we played, and just how important of a victory that is. To beat the champions once again at home and to do it so comfortably just shows that we really can be challengers this year. There's no reason why we can't. We've got so much quality. We put Rovers to the sword in that second half, excluding the last 5 minutes, and you know, when you're able to do that, it's the sign of a team that can achieve really good things this year. Obviously, look, you know, you don't want to get too ahead of yourself. You know, you're up coming up in the summer, and you know we're gonna have more games, and we might have to rotate a little bit more. You know, we saw last night. You know, we didn't have Dara Power or Sen and Mullen. You know, they were probably two big misses. You know, actually, you know, I don't think Flores or Warren done too badly, but keeping players fit is going to be the key to what we can achieve. I think, you know, we have to try and keep this core now. You know, we don't want any more injuries. You know, we want players to come back from injuries quick. You know, like James Taylor. You know, if Mullen and Power they will have knocks. You know, we don't want you know to be stuck in a situation where we're going to have to, you know, chop and change. But look, it didn't affect us last night. We got the win. We were totally dominant in the second half, especially. You know, so brilliant to see the players playing with such confidence after that second goal went in. You know, some lovely football being played, and also I think last night really did show, you know, how special Daily Mount can be in these sort of games. You know, the atmosphere was absolutely top notch, and you know, it's going to be very hard to leave. But obviously, it's going to benefit us greatly in the long term. But you know, there really is no better place on a Friday night. You know, when you get atmospheres like that and you see performances like that on the pitch. You know, it's just a great reminder of how, you know, we can really use Daily Mount to our advantage in these sort of games. But another absolutely brilliant victory. What a start it's been, and let's hope we'll carry it on next week in Waterford. So that's where I'll end it. Make sure you like, subscribe, share, comment down below your thoughts on the game, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye bye.